Hi, my name is Sean Shaler. This is my friend Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter semi-fame. Chris, fourth time is a charm, or fifth or something, I don't know. Had lots of internet issues for some reason, but I think we're good now. We're not live, we wanted to be live. That's okay, we'll try it another day. We still got a really interesting episode for you, or what most people would consider a very polarizing episode, I think, to talk about. Not a whole lot else going on this week, but that's alright. I'm ready for a quiet, simple week. Last week we had a great episode, very wild and crazy. This week we'll settle back down. Chris, how you doing?
I am doing good. I bought a new car recently.
Awesome.
I traded in my Dodge Magnum,
The
which
Batmobile.
I always it was all paid off and everything. It's a 2006 Dodge Magnum. Really love that car. I needed a new alternator, which was a bit of like $500. Also needed new tires, which would be like another 500. Then I'm like, all right, how much money do I want to, much more money do I want to invest into it? So I finally traded in, got a Kia Sorento,
Excellent.
and because I needed a new alternator, I bought a car in Lawrence, so I had to get from Topeka to Lawrence with a car whose alternator was draining the battery, car talk, whatever. And so I got there on hope and a prayer, like just as I pulled into Lawrence. Wow, I never really said where I live and stuff. Oh well, doesn't matter. Just as I pulled into into Lawrence, like my like all these lights start coming on. The freaking
All the battery
anti
light and
braking
everything all
system
pops
light came
on. Yeah,
on. The yeah,
I've
and
been
then
there. I've had
my
a bad
but
alternator before. Well, I'm glad you bought a new vehicle. I'm a little sad to see the
and then I feel like
Batmobile
I just
go.
like rolled into the dealership. Yeah, yeah.
Literally on your last
And I
legs.
don't have a good nickname for this car.
It'll get one. It'll inherit one naturally.
So
The best nicknames just happen. They're not planned. Well, I'm glad you got a new car. Hope you like it.
yeah.
Hopefully it treats you better, or hopefully its alternator doesn't go bad for a while. I guess is what I was gonna say. I've been in the vehicle two different times in my life when an alternator has gone bad, and even the second time I still had no idea. I was like, why is everything dying? All of a sudden the car is turned on. I don't understand. I don't know car things. I should preface with that. Well, yeah, I'm glad you got a new car. It's kind of a stressful experience, so hopefully it wasn't too bad. And hey, the first news note here, first attempt live. I think safe to say live was a failure. My best guess is that my internet isn't quite good enough to handle a high quality video call and streaming to Twitch steadily. I was getting lots of red and orange lights. That's okay. We'll try it again another time. We'll figure out a different way. Maybe I'll hardwire in because I'd like to go live. Not for any particular reason. It just sounds fun. That being said, Chris, tell us about your latest YouTube
I only got a couple. There is, I spoke about last time, there's the top 10 emotional scenes from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which includes fellow YouTuber Rohani Boy. And then also I did a video about the LGBTQ representation in history in Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. So those are two really fun. I really enjoy doing the LGBTQ one just because, I like diversity. I like celebrating it, even if I don't identify as those things. That takes empathy to and to do all that. And I felt the same way whenever I did my casting video for Avatar. Like I researched so many like Asian and Native American actors and Pacific Islanders, and really gained an appreciation for them. So I really like doing those videos. Those are really fulfilling.
I think that one came out like almost exactly the day after we finished our last recording, if I'm not mistaken, the LGBTQ one. Really liked the art. I know you pulled some
Yes.
art, some fan art from Twitter, I believe is where it came from or was caught. Really great stuff in there.
Yeah.
I really
Twitter
enjoyed
and
both videos.
Instagram.
It was also cool to see collaborate with another YouTuber. It just, I don't know, it has a very gratifying feel to collaborate with somebody else. So that's pretty exciting. Go watch those videos. Great videos. I enjoyed both of them thoroughly. I'd agree. I liked the LGBTQ one just for the sake of watching something a unique take on the Avatar universe. I think Avatar is very popular. I don't know how many ideas you can stumble on that haven't been done 1,000 times. So nice to see something a little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't have any. I have no videos to talk about, but I do have some interesting news, and that's that I've gotten my wife to agree to sit in and do a separate podcast with me about one of her favorite video game series. It's called Katamari Damacy, and it is essentially a game where you roll a ball of trash. And if you've played it before, you know it and you recognize it. And if you haven't, it doesn't sound fun at all. I promise it's really fun and stupid and crazy. But yeah, I'm just excited. I'm going to get her to sit down with me and record audio. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it sounds like fun. I like being in front of the camera and talking, so it's pretty exciting. Maybe next week I will have that up. Maybe I'll try that one live. I'll do a beta test with our video to see if it's related to my internet or related to the video call with you, as my wife will be in the room next to me. So we'll see how that goes. Not a whole lot of other news this week. This episode's going to be a little high and tight.
She'll be in a separate room next to you?
No, hopefully she's in this room next to me. Hopefully we're not recording. But we can do that. We'll test it out. I'll send her up into the bedroom and put her on Google Hangouts, and we'll see how it goes. We gotta get to the root cause of the issue here. Probably just the internet. But come on, Google Fiber, you're killing me. Yeah, maybe next week we'll give it a shot. So again, this not a real long episode here. Gonna kind of keep things high and tight. Got a work trip tomorrow, so I'll take the blame for it. But no further ado. Let's jump right into, again, what I consider a very polarizing episode, I think.
Really? Things polar. Before that, I just want to say the Kyoshi novel comes out next week? The 16th? Yeah, the 16th, next week. So like next Tuesday, Kyoshi novel will be out, and I can't wait to read it. And I should be doing, I think I'm going to do reviews for like 3 chapters at a time, just like reviews or recaps of them. I'm looking really excited to learn more about Avatar Kyoshi. Also, what's really interesting would be to see, because Avatar Kuruk being the Avatar before her,
the Avatar we don't like,
towards her, and I just think it's going to be really interesting because he's kind of a failure. Like, I just imagine Kyoshi being like, "Shut up, you effing loser! Like, I got this. I don't need your help. Like, your wife got kidnapped." But anyway, looking forward to that.
Why don't you take care of your own self? The first of 2 Avatar Kyoshi novels, is that right? There's going to be 2 of them, and I think the next one is slated not in the near future. This one, and then like a year off, I believe, before the next one. And then, I know I said no news, but it's not really news. But I keep hearing more and more buzz and seeing more snippets and pieces of information about the Avatar live action series coming to Netflix. And so, nothing new to report other than that. I feel like I'm hearing some energy build up for it, and that's exciting. Nothing else to report, just hearing things. So, whatever, I'm getting jacked for it.
Yeah, the most recent thing I heard, Giancarlo Volpe, who wrote this episode, I forget if he did, but on Twitter he wrote that he's not involved with the Netflix show. He's an executive producer on The Dragon Prince, but he said he did talk to Brian and Mike. He saw some early just stuff. He didn't divulge what it was, but he said he cried tears of joy seeing it, so those are good signs.
Excellent. I don't believe he was involved in this episode, but I don't remember for sure. But I don't believe so. Hold on one second. Oh, I lied. He definitely directed exactly this episode. Hey, how about that? He did it, and the written by Josh Hamilton, directed by Giancarlo Volpe. Fact checked. I'm glad I did.
Is that how you pronounce that?
I have no idea, to be honest. I took my best shot. I'm gonna say Giancarlo, but I don't know. I'll have to resort to the internet later to find out. So hey, not really news, but kind of like news. It's pretty exciting. So with that, we have Book 2 Earth, episode 28. I never know what to call it. It's episode 8 of season 2, or of book 2, episode 28 overall. It's a big series in my mind. So episode 28, and we what did we do last time? We just saw Zuko alone. It's a very Zuko-centric episode. Now we're kind of shifting gears. This episode is barely involving Zuko until the very end. So we totally shift storylines going toward the other side. And I believe we're in the Earth Kingdom. I'm not sure where. But we essentially... Well, I don't have any prelude to this episode other than that it basically starts with them playing with Appa's fur, thinking it's soft grass, and it's kind of nasty and hilarious all at the same time. I don't remember if it was Aang mentioned laying down in soft grass, or Toph maybe. and they
It was tough. Yes.
and then they had to break it to her that it was actually Appa's fur, and then they start making large mustaches with it. And it's very misleading to me personally because it gives you the feeling that this is going to be a funny episode, and it is not a funny episode at all. And essentially, there's not much reason for it up until later in the episode, but it does come back. But they are trying to find a place to settle for the night, and I would say the episode begins in earnest when we find out that they're being pursued by this large war machine. I don't know what else I call it, a tank, I guess, on the PowerPoint. It's clearly a Fire Nation doing, and it's just a big war machine is pursuing them. I believe Toph is the first who wakes up and feels it in the middle of the night and says, "Hey, we got to move on."
Yeah. That first scene, even with the Appa's fur and everything, it really starts to lay the groundwork on what type of person Toph is and how it just completely contradicts the type of character that Katara is. Like Katara is like very loving, and she's probably more traditionally womanly than Toph, because she says like, "I'm just glad we got another girl on team." Then Toph interrupts that with a joke about having hairy armpits. So that doesn't build
using
tension,
Appa's
but
fur,
it
not
builds
actually having
disagreement.
hairy armpits. Right, using Appa's fur. Just want to clarify.
Yes.
And then also sort of Toph is very, very motherly. There's some leadership qualities in there, even to the extent of she asked Toph to help get camp set up, and Toph's just not really having it at this point for whatever reason. So they're building up very, very in a very strong way toward a pending clash, and you get a feel for that fairly early in the episode. This episode and the episode after it, I believe I called them, I forget, the duology of Grouchy Toph or the duology of Mean Toph or whatever, because she's very grumpy in these next couple episodes, and it's not my favorite version of Toph at all. But then, quick redemption arc not long after that, so it gets pretty exciting. So
yeah, it's kind of interesting because I watched the show such a long time ago that I forget when I fell in love with Toph as a character. It definitely wasn't these two. Well, it might have been her introduction because she has a great introduction.
Absolutely.
So she starts off like really high. Then she goes, just a little lower. Well, maybe a lot lower.
She's a bad
way
teammate. She goes a ways
after
down
these
there.
couple episodes.
Yeah, she's a bad teammate. She takes a serious dip, I think. But I'm going to guess, or maybe not guess as much as mine would be, not the next episode. So the next one is Bitter Work. So it's not that one, but I think the one after, I at least shift from being angry at Toph most of the time to that one I start to feel some pretty serious pity and appreciation for her abilities. That's the library. So not the next one, but the one after that. Yeah. She turns another corner coming back. But that's a long ways away. Right now we're stuck with Grouchy Toph, unfortunately. Or Mean Toph, or whatever you want to call it. That's not very nice. She's Toph. She's still great. But they're sleeping in their various sleeping bags, and Toph and her rocks. And she feels the vibrations from this war machine in the distance. So she wakes the group, and they don't really trust her at first. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they get up in the air before they see the war machine, and then they actually do believe her. Does that sound accurate? I think that's how it happened.
Yeah. Yes.
They fly a ways, and there's probably like a good 5 minutes dedicated to like they fly a ways. They show everybody being grumpy from being woke up again. They have to set up camp again. Toph doesn't pitch in again. It's very much deja vu, but with more grumpier characters because everybody's sleep deprived. They think they're safe. They set up camp, fall asleep again. A minute later, same story. Toph wakes him up again. I don't remember how many total times. There might be a third time. Like she wakes him up, they move. Is there a third time after that? It all runs together, and it's part of what makes me and some other people mad at this episode. It runs together. It's very repetitive in its first 2/3.
It is fairly repetitive. I do like the repetition of it. Kind of makes the team morale just go lower one step, lower one step each time, like to the point where like it's a full credit to Azula. Like she is very tactical in this. She's like, I'm just gonna chase them Like I'm in this machine. I can sleep. I can rest. I'm gonna chase them until they tire out, and then I'm gonna strike at that moment.
If you told me
And you
that
see them
Azula
just like
doesn't
starting to
sleep,
turn on each other. Um,
if you just came out and said Azula doesn't sleep and she's some kind of fire vampire, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds right. She's the devil. I get it. Yeah, I never thought of it as a tactical maneuver by Azula. In my
yeah,
mind, like, oh, just pursuit. But you're right. She gets sort of this wicked evil pleasure. We don't necessarily see it, of just seeing them tear each other apart. You know, like getting in the opponent's head in a good game of football or basketball. I love seeing that stuff. That's kind of interesting. I love seeing it when it's not my team being messed with. And it's important to me to remember.
yeah.
And
And
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I'll say I don't think this is a really good episode for Toph or Katara, because
Mm-mm.
Katara like says some very mean things to
Mm.
Toph. Like she's like, "Oh, such a nice night, Toph. Too bad you can't see it." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, Katara, not, no. I don't care. You don't make fun of people for being blind."
It was very mean spirited too. That's not like a buddy buddy prank. It was intentionally barbed. Not a great Sokka
Yeah,
episode either. He doesn't really help. I think later on in the episode he says calm down, which I think we're all aware of how well that works with friends and family members and loved ones when you tell them to calm down. Nails it every time. And then I think he says you were both idiots, and just like it's not a great Sokka episode either. But to be fair, the next episode is a great Sokka episode, so his redemption arc comes super duper quick. I love Sokka in the next episode, but another time, another time. It's worth pointing out as I complain about this part of the episode. I'm going to say the first 2/3 that I don't care for, and it is kind of repetitive and dull. There is a very good payoff at the end, but sometimes when I think back to this episode, I don't even remember it. I just remember not liking Grouchy Toph and Grouchy Katara and sleep deprived team. But there is a good payoff at the end, and almost caught me by surprise again. Like I'd sort of forgotten how it all wrapped up. So more gratifying as it goes on. So at some point in time,
I do.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I'll say I do like those mongoose lizards. I don't know if you're about to get to them or not. We're kind of jumping off all over the place in these first half sort of that episode. They're pretty cool. And then when they see them, Toph is like, "That's all right. We can take them 3-on-3." And then, I love how subtly like there's disrespect happening on multiple sides. Like Toph is disrespecting Sokka here by not counting him in the three as four, and then Sokka shoots back like, Toph, there's four of us. Like he has the audacity to think that she doesn't know how to count. I mean, he says it not in like a hateful way or anything. It just, and then she's like, "No, I wasn't counting you. All right, fine. It's 3-on-3 plus Sokka."
Yeah, I couldn't remember
Kind
what she
of
said
sort
there.
of reaction of like I can fight. And this,
They're nailing this everybody's grumpy bit. It's funny, that's what you were thinking about with
yeah,
the mongoose lizards. I was actually thinking about like why the mongoose lizards got to be so big. Mongoose aren't that big. Most lizards aren't that big. And then I was also thinking about badger moles are way too big. Like badgers, moles, those aren't that big. I forget what we see in the next episode. What the heck is it called? The the bear, the moose. What is it called? The tiger moose. It's like, all right, that's allowed to be big. Those are big animals. I don't. What? It's a silly thing. The aardvark thing that the one.
saber-tooth moose line.
Yeah, the moose line. Thank you. It's like, all right, that makes sense. The aardvark things from the previous season from the bounty hunter. I don't remember their names. That's another one. It's like, why is that thing so big? How come it gets the? It has a weird name. Help me out here. The sheer the
Shoo,
sheer
sheer.
Shearshoe? I don't even know what that's a combination of. I just know it looks like an animal that's an aardvark that shouldn't be that big. So, some in the Avatar universe, you get combined with another animal, you get to be way bigger. Badger mole is probably the primary offender, but they're really cool, so it's fine. First Earthbenders, good for them. The That's all I remembered about this whole episode when I first thought of the chase. It's like, I know there's a tank thing, everybody's grumpy, and they ride these lizards that are way too big. That's all I remember. But there's sort of a fight scene, not really. kind of get circled up. I don't necessarily remember how it resolves, but I do remember that after the fight scene, after the little miniature fight confrontation, they split up and they start laying some false trails, putting out some red herrings. Aang starts putting Appa's fur in a different direction to try to throw him off. And did they bathe Appa or something, or comb him all out so he's all shedded out?
Yep, they gave Appa a nice bath.
And try to get him. I've bathed enough dogs to know that doesn't work. They still shed. And but regardless, they're trying to throw him off the trail.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
I've never tried to take. I mean, I had German Shepherds growing up, but they were outside, and so I never tried to like de-shed them. They just naturally lost their hair.
We've tried
my
to
dog now is hyperallergenic. She doesn't shed at all.
Charlie, we brush him. We use like no shed shampoo and all this other stuff. It's like he still just sheds all the time. But the point is, there's still. I think what the creators are trying to get across here is they are broken, but they're still thinking. They're about to go their separate ways. Toph splits off from the group as well. So Toph and Katara get in kind of one final fight somewhere in there, and then Toph splits off and goes her own way. But like I said, they're still thinking strategically. I don't know why it seems like it's important, but it seems like the creators put that in there on purpose. Maybe it's just to drive the plot, but it seems to me like they're trying to credit Aang, like, hey, everybody else is falling apart, but he's still trying to be constructive and think of the bigger picture. Maybe it's really not as important as I'm making it. But what happens, though, is when they all split up, is that it leads us to what I think is one of the better interactions in the series, and that's when Toph runs into Iroh, and it's fantastic. Almost a mini redemption for Toph right here.
Well, yeah, I mean, because Toph has to understand that Toph has never had any friends, right? Toph doesn't know how to act in social norms with friends. She knows how to put on a mask for like the high elites and everything like that. But she's been by herself the whole time. Like she's never been herself around people who were close to her. And so it might be a little bit understanding. And I do absolutely love her interaction with Iroh and how Iroh is like nice to her. But like he just sits and has tea with her, and he pours her tea. She's like, you don't have to pour me tea just because I'm blind. He's like, I'm not pouring you tea because you're blind. I'm pouring you tea because it's like the respectful thing to do. And then like he talks about like Iroh delivers a lot of wisdom here, and I forget the exact words of wisdom he gives. And Toph gives it right back to him about how like he also needs Zuko. I also love that Iroh is giving Zuko space to grow and be himself, but he's always going to be there to help him when needed.
I don't remember the exact wording, but I know at some point Iroh basically says, you remind me a lot of my nephew. And then it is fun to see Toph get to turn around and deliver some wisdom of her own. And as you mentioned, Toph has been alone her whole life, but she's essentially one of the two most powerful earthbenders that we've seen to this point, sort of self-taught. Like there's a lot of good parallels to Zuko in there, but those are things that she did develop on her own, or that she strengthened or heightened on her own. So it is nice to be able to turn back and see her give what we would probably consider the show's wisest character some actual useful, maybe it's something you already knew, but maybe some useful confidence. Like, yeah, you're doing the right thing. Give him some space for a minute. But just a very cool interaction between two people who ultimately become two of most people's favorite characters in the entire series. So it's fun to see them bump into this in an innocent situation. Yeah. So after they share some tea, Toph is sort of inspired to go back to her friends to help them. She understands that they haven't known each other for a while, but they're her friends. So she goes to reunite with them. And it all comes down to this. I think it's a ghost town is what they call it. And it's just an old abandoned earthbender, very much a town, not a city or anything. Like they show very clear. It's just a handful of houses lingering around. But really what it amounts to is that Azula kind of has the gang cornered, or they're about to. Azula and Ty Lee and Mai. I still haven't made up my mind. And she kind of has them cornered in the back of this town. May. I'm going to get it right next time for sure. Right off. And here is where we get a tremendous payoff here. Everything that we've seen in this episode, all of the annoying sort of repetition or having to see the dark sides of our favorite characters, we get a really nice payoff here that I absolutely love. And it comes down to Azula has been tossing around. She starts tossing around blue lightning. She does it once earlier in the episode, and I forget Iroh has a name for it. Cold fire, cold something fire.
Are you talking about lightning?
Yeah, cold-blooded fire. Is that what he calls it?
Maybe lightning's called the cold-blooded fire.
Cold-blooded fire.
Because it's like, yeah, because you have to be like it's not. It's a type of firebending that isn't driven by emotion or anger the way that other firebending is driven off of, or aggression. Like you got to be calm, and we'll kind of get more into that in the next episode of the work from Iroh.
Yeah, it's a fun.
So how to do some lightning techniques.
It's a next episode does have a fun deeper dive into a specific kind of bending that we really don't get anywhere else. But in this episode, we're building up to that because earlier Toph, she threw up like a giant, like a very large rock wall, and then you see Azula throw this blue lightning that just incinerates it in a second. It just shatters it to pieces.
Oh yeah, while she was riding on the lizard.
Yeah, so
very, very great technique.
I have some disagreements about where blue lightning comes from and whether or not Azula has the peace of mind to be able to perform it, but we'll talk about that next episode. In this episode, they're just making a point to show that it's an extremely powerful form of bending, trying to land that point right away. So they're cornered, and I don't remember exactly how it all goes down, so you'll have to jump in with some details. But basically, so Zuko arrives as well, and Iroh, and then Azula and Mai and Ty Lee are all there, and then of course Avatar, Aang, and the gang. Oh, that rhymed. I didn't mean for it to rhyme.
Well, so they split up. Mai and Ty Lee is Mai and Ty Lee versus Sokka and Katara, and they get beat. Sokka and Katara get beat like easily, like real quick. Like they would have been gone for. And I love like Mai's like, gosh, I thought when we capture you guys would be more exciting. Well, victory is boring. Then Appa swoops in and saves them.
Gets them both.
And then
I totally forgot about that part.
Recounts that Sokka was cute, even though she beat the crap out of him, sort of.
And has a ponytail, I believe. That was referenced in there
Azula
as well.
Finally corners.
Because doesn't Katara say, like, what is it? What's wrong with... I forget how it goes. What's wrong with ponytails? And he's like, this is a warrior's braid or something.
This is a warrior's wolf tail.
Wolf tail, that's what he calls it. Oh, Sokka, here, cop your way out of stuff. That's a ponytail, man. But regardless, I digress.
And then Azula tracks down Aang, and Aang is just waiting for her. And he looks tired. He looks exhausted. And Aang is finally like, I think Azula's like, do you want to know who I am? Like, I'm sure you're curious. And then she's like, I'll give you a hint. And she covers her face and says, I have to capture the Avatar. And Aang doesn't respond to it. Like, this is how messed up Azula is. She's like, you can laugh. It's funny. It's just like,
I was sort of under the impression that Aang didn't maybe get it right away. Like,
joke. And she's one of the people who makes a joke.
I thought maybe they were trying to imply that Aang like didn't necessarily get it right away, and I thought they were just trying to stress like the tired part. But you're right; it could have just been like he's not sure how to react to this insane human being standing in front of him right now.
I don't think he is.
He's very confused. I forgot about that part too.
And then Zuko joins the fight. And then it's and then it's a 3-way Royal Rumble at this point. And this fight, I think there's so much. I think there's a great job of directing here because there's so much storytelling going on in this fight, just about like how inventive Aang can be and how much he doesn't want to hurt people, and then how like I said, how trickful, whatever he can be. Like when he air scoots into this abandoned place and Azula follows him, and she against the ropes, but she always finds a way out. And she goes to the other side of it. She catches herself, and then Zuko runs straight into it, and like falls on the ground, showing that like Zuko tries hard, but he ends up most of the time just landing on his face. Just so much great, I think, storytelling going on in that fight. And I don't know what Zuko's like. What does he think from this? Like he's so lost at this point. He thinks he can capture the Avatar and still take it back to his father, who his father sent his sister out to kill him, essentially, or capture him. So he's so lost at this point. He doesn't even know what his main objectives should be.
Do you think? Do you think she would intentionally kill them, and that would be okay? Like, was she ordered to kill them, or is it sort of an under the rug? Like, hey, if Iroh and Zuko don't come back, that's probably fine. Or was it? Do you think it was a direct order? Like, no, you just get them out of the way. They are embarrassments. Which way do you think it goes?
I think I think she was sent there to capture him and lock him up so he wouldn't be, because she says to him like, "Father wants you back home, so he wouldn't be an embarrassment to him." Um, and so I don't, but I think he would have been fine either way. You know, it's like
I just
like
feel
all right,
like
fine, you killed Zuko, whatever. I was gonna kill him myself. You know, like 3 years ago,
that's kind of what I was thinking.
or
Is maybe
maybe
it's
five
just a
years
matter of
ago.
if Azula
And so
probably would
and
kill
I think he
them.
definitely would have been fine with her killing Iroh, because he never.
He ceases to be useful to the Fire Nation at a certain point. Uh, I think Azula would kill them regardless of orders, especially as we get farther along to the series when she gets like real cray cray. I think she'd probably kill him one way or the other if she had the chance, but she almost has a chance here when she does. She gets a bolt of lightning, right? Hits Iroh, and everybody gets all sad and upset. Even Team Avatar's like, oh, not Iroh. Now, they don't say that literally, but you kind of get the sense that even they're like, why'd it have to be Iroh? Could have been the other one. And so then,
Yeah, it's funny because just in that split second, like Iroh is looking at Toph like, "Oh, this is that girl that I met earlier,"
I think he says,
and
this is my friend, or
Azula.
this, like, kind of explicit about it, isn't he? Calls her his friend or
No,
something
no, they don't talk. They don't bring up that they know each other until um, episode like 18 or
later on.
19 of season
Okay.
two. Um, but Azula, notices that Iroh is kind of distracted. Yeah, later on. Azula knows that Iroh is distracted, and she knows this is her chance, and she, fire blasts him, and they all combine their powers together, which is really cool to see. Like we don't see that all that often. And usually, it's only like with the Avatar in the Avatar state, but this is like 5 people working together. Like even Sokka throws his boomerang,
He tries his hardest, dang it.
and
And you know,
and
I
there
have
is a door right there, and so like
I have a picture of it too, because I mean it's a really great moment that you mentioned. It's something you always see when the Avatar state comes around. It's that kind of has that kind of magnitude, but for some reason I stuck it as the last slide on the PowerPoint because I wasn't thinking. But it's a great picture. We'll bring it up later. Give me a few minutes. But I interrupted you. You were talking about the door. You were talking about the door. Can you hear me, Chris?
yeah, yeah, there was a door. So sometimes people are like, "Oh, how does she escape?" Like there was like a slight door there. Like I'm sure she built up a fire shield big enough that she can escape through the back door. So it wasn't like completely, just completely out of nowhere that she escaped from that. But this one, they do call back to that, and the Ember Island players play like how did Azula escape all 5 of them.
I forgot
And I do
that
love
callback.
Zuko's reaction of like he's like so beaten up about this. Like how this happen to Iroh, and like Katara offers to heal him, and the way he says leave, like great job by Dante Bosco acting, just like leave, and he throws fire, but it's not like the way that bending works is the bending to me is all about like there's physical and there's spiritual aspect of it, and there's your intentions behind it. Like he didn't have intentions of striking them with fire at the moment. He had intentions of warding them away. So the fire never really like hurts them.
It
And then Katara offers to heal him, which I'm gonna do a video one day on what if Katara healed Iroh in this moment. I think it could have some ramifications um, throughout the whole entire series. I
I'm
haven't thought about it much, but I'm gonna do the video sometime in the future. Don't know when.
This is kind of the beginning, or well, it could just be me thinking this way. This season culminates in some big Katara Zuko moments. The end of this book does. This is kind of the first little taste of interaction between them. Her offering to heal Iroh, and us all probably being a little disappointed that she doesn't get to. I think I'd say most people probably are. I certainly was.
Yeah, I mean, if she did though, like if she did heal him, that would build up less conflict within Zuko, right? So then Zuko probably would have joined Team Avatar a lot earlier, and it wouldn't have been as satisfying. Like it's within Zuko's character right now to not trust anybody. Like he just tried to capture Aang, and I'm sure if Iroh was like awake and sound, he'd be like, "Well, no, let her heal me, please. I'm hurting
Zuko,
here."
chill. This really sucks. Let's put some water on this, please. Pretty please. Yeah. I mean, well, you're right. It would make an interesting
Like
video. What would some
Zuko,
other
have you ever been
ramifications
hit
be?
by fire? Like it hurts.
And Zuko would be
Oh,
like,
sorry.
"Yeah, I definitely have actually." You know what? You should be more empathetic, Zuko. You should.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been nice to have somebody work on your face right after it got fire burnt? I don't know. You might have felt better. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. I've never been hit in the face with fire, but I assume it hurts. You're
My
right. Though. That
sister
would
put a
make.
hot iron to my face
That's hey.
and
You
burnt
got
my
a mean
cheek.
sister, man. That's crazy.
Oh,
Is your sister's name Azula? I hope she doesn't hear that. I'm sorry.
it's not. Yeah.
How appropriate would that be? Long story short, I think you have a
She,
case for a compelling video
I don't know.
there.
It's one of those stupid arguments anyway.
I mean, me and my sister did mean things to each other. I guess they just weren't
If you're talking
related
about my
to.
sister making a case about just, I don't know, my family dysfunctions and stuff. We're a good family though.
Yeah, yeah. I was to say, great family, but we certainly. I feel like our fights were more like hand to hand violence rather than irons, for example.
Yeah, I mean, we did that. We had that too.
You have
But this
just
wasn't like a fight. She didn't have like a hot iron in her hand.
right. She didn't have like one hot one in
We
each
were arguing
hand and
about
throwing
something. She
boxes
grabbed a
at
hot
you.
iron. She was like, "I'm gonna burn you with this." I'm like, "No, you're not. I'm gonna burn you in your face." No, you're not. And then and I think even she was like slightly surprised.
Like,
by
oh
it.
man, I did it, and you're like, hey,
And
ow.
then she didn't get in trouble though because I didn't. Yeah.
She was surprised at her own Azula-ness there for just a second. Although Azula never has
yeah,
that
man, I'll
moment
make a
where
video
she's.
about that someday.
Long story short, I think you have a compelling case or a case for a compelling video there. What would have happened? Because like I said, I know I would have liked to see maybe Katara just take a stand and be like, no, shut up, and then heal him. Yeah, I'd be interested to see ramifications. But I never thought of his firebending. It never occurred to me like, hey, his firebending didn't hurt any of them. It was like a warning shot almost, but it didn't occur to me like why that would happen. That's kind of interesting that you said the intention, or you believe that the intention of the firebending, maybe his mind is on Iroh and in a saving, protecting, warding. I think you said ward specifically in that kind of place. So when he throws that fire, it's a different kind of fire. I don't know. It's interesting. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I think it's been shown throughout the Avatar universe. Like there's a scene, when Jet dies, Long Fei Earth bends at him and it kind of hits him in the chest and he dies. And then there's an episode, the Western Air Temple, where Toph does a similar move against Zuko, and she Earth bends, and it looks like the rock structure looks very similar. And fans are like, "Oh, well, why didn't that hurt Zuko that much?" Then in commentary, Brian Konietzko's like, well, she wasn't trying to hurt him. Like it was just about warding him off. Even though it looks similar to Jet's and Long Fei's battle, it was completely different kind of intentions. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't know. I forget what the exact wording, what his exact quote was, but
I can see that being, if bending is so connected to sort of your emotional state, I can see I'd be attached to your intentions as well. It's funny to think about, like, for some reason it's easier from my mind to accept, like, hey, you can spout out a little fire that doesn't hurt anybody, but to spout out like a rock wall and hitting somebody is like, it's probably going to hurt either way.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I totally get it though. I can't picture off the top of my head that scene, so it'll be interested to see if now I pick up on it a little better when it actually happens. I'm sure I will. Watching with much more intention these days, much more attention, excuse me, these days. And so, Iroh, Zuko on the ground. Zuko scares everybody away. So this beautiful moment we had with everybody working together lasted literally like, I don't know, 5 seconds. But it was a really good 5 seconds. Made you feel good inside. Inspires you to like go run through a brick wall or something. But Zuko shoos them away. And in essence, that's basically the end of the episode. I don't remember if anything happens literally after that. If they all get to just go on their way again, resume their trip. But that's it. That's the end of the chase, which is a very much, like I said, I don't want to call it a half and half episode. It's more like a 2/3, 1/3, where it feels very different on both sides of those. But the build-up's important. I get why it's in there. And you also, let's be honest, some of this could just be filling time. Like, hey, we got to wake him up one more time and fill some more of this episode. I don't know. With that, let's jump right into scores.
Yeah.
Get to Chris's scores first. If I can click on the right stuff here. Here we go. Chris, go ahead.
All right. Audio visual, gave it 8.5. I mostly gave it 8.5 because of the fight scene. And like I said before, I think there was so much storytelling done within that fight scene that I thought it was really remarkable. Like animation wise, I don't think there was anything quite like just over the top impressive. But still so much visual storytelling going on there. Give it 8.5. As for story, gave that a 7.5. There just isn't, I don't think, that much story going on here. It's like, all right, they chase them, and then they get in a fight, and then that's it. So, really, I maybe could have gave this a 7, honestly. But yeah, there's just not much story there. There's a good moment between Toph and Iroh, and I think that's where the story shines the most.
I mean, some nice things happen. It's not like we're trying to bash the whole episode, but it doesn't conglomerate into a good story necessarily, but not a bad one by any means. Memorable, you have a 7. I don't know if you can see that one.
Yeah, so as for yes, for memorable, I have a 7. This is one of those episodes that I don't necessarily look forward to each time. It's just not that memorable. Like, there's nothing really in it. Even the Toph and Iroh piece, which is probably the highlight of the episode. Even that doesn't crack like my top 30 memorable things in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So gets a 7 out of 10 there, which brings my weighted average score to a 7.7. Dang it, 7.8.
7.8, yeah. And that falls in pretty respectable territory. I was pretty similar, except for audio visual, so I gave it a 7.5. But I'll be happy to say that I was wrong in the sense of when I think of audio visual, I tend to think of music and scenery and things, and there's not a ton of it here. But you're right, they do a tremendous amount, at least in that fight scene and in the tea scene, and even in the scenes I don't like. There's a lot of great visual storytelling, so I probably should give it more credit. So I gave it a 7.5. I could maybe change my mind there if I went back and did it again. Story 7.5, same thing. As just I can't contain my lack of interest overall at the overall story here. There's 2 or 3 really nice things that happen, and then a lot of stuff that just makes me not care for what's going on here. Don't know what else to say. It's okay. I mean, nothing wrong with the 7.5. It just not that interesting to me. I will say it is very memorable. Maybe not always for the greatest reasons, but when I think of Toph, I do think of this episode a lot and remind myself, like, hey, Toph ends up being one of my favorite characters, but she starts, as John Mulaney would say, in a pretty rough place. And you said earlier she comes out of the gate strong. Her introduction is great. But these are our first 2 or 3 episodes here where we're dealing with Toph, where I flat out just don't like her at first. And this one is sort of the pinnacle of that in my mind. So it is memorable, maybe not in a great way. I don't look forward to watching it, but I always know where it is and when it's going to happen, and I'm not really looking forward to it, to be honest. That brings my weighted average to a 7.7, so we came out very similar there. Nothing wrong with 7.7. That's right in sort of the meat of where a lot of our episodes land. It brings our weighted score to a 7.7. And here's that great picture of everybody working together. No no Sokka throwing a boomerang here, but you get to see everybody else bending.
Wow.
It's 4 plus Sokka. Next episode, such a great Sokka episode. I love it. It's fantastic.
You know,
I don't even love the episode.
I always love like somehow. Sorry, I always love how somehow in Avatar, like they always like maintain order, even. And I feel like they do it on purpose because this is going in the order of the Avatar cycle. So air, water, earth, fire.
That's so funny because it does, but it's not the order that I think of it. I always think of it as the opening scene. Don't they go water, earth, fire, air? So like it's still in order, but the fact that it starts with Aang threw my brain off there when you said that. For me, you're like it goes in order. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Oh wait, it does. I'm just stupid. But
yeah.
That's cool though.
As long as that circle is the same circle and it's going in. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm sure they did that on purpose, right? Or if they put Toph and Zuko close together because maybe Zuko doesn't know, like, she's a friend of Iroh's, so maybe she's a bad guy. I don't know. Let's give it a shot. She's a mediary. No, they don't know that, but I didn't notice. Excellent catch. And just a good picture. Something about this, we see the spheres a lot, and we think of, quite frankly, we think of the Avatar state, so it's weird but interesting to see that symmetry or that symbolism used in another way to defeat an evil monster. But yeah, again, show that picture. That's one of 2 interesting parts of this entire episode. You tossed out a couple of the burns they had. I should give those credit, but I don't want to because they were mean burns. They weren't like the comedy that we're used to. They were mean-spirited things that were said, and that's hurtful, kids. That's hurtful. I don't know what else to say about this episode. I don't love it, but I get why it's placed. This is an episode where it really can't take place many other places. It does start to build up to several things, reuniting or getting Toph integrated with the gang, reuniting Zuko and Iroh, starting this thing between Katara and Zuko. That builds up gradually over the rest of the season. So sometimes we say these episodes like, hey, you could put that anywhere and it'd be fine. This is the exact opposite. It needs to be exactly right here. So that's kind of interesting, I guess. That's about all I got to say. Final thoughts from you? Final thoughts, Chris? Can you hear me? The internet's been rough today.
Yes. Final thoughts. It's an okay episode. It has, I think, just one really great fight. It's kind of a short-lived fight, if anything. And I guess none of us really like to see our characters argue with each other. I did have this thought that this episode and possibly the Runaway episode is kind of like the Amber Island or the beach episode but like this episode is like, how do we break down our protagonists and how do we view their interactions and their relationships with each other? And then the beach is like, how do we view our antagonists and their reactions and and how they interact with each other. So
I never thought that's a good. No, it's a very good parallel. Probably another episode that's not exactly loved by most, so to speak. Not hated, just not loved. But I think you're right. I think it's a very nice parallel here. Sort of a mandatory character development episode in a way. Each of those. I don't like the Ember Island Beach one at all, but I get why it's there. It's a nice break. I don't. We'll talk to it when we come to it, but I have issues with why they're just all there hanging out at that point. It bothers me, but another episode for another time. I will say the next episode, it's not one of my favorite episodes by any means, but I mentioned Sokka is great in the next episode. And then we get a really cool parallel side-by-side of two different bending styles sort of being taught and learned. You kind of get an in-depth look at them, maybe more so than you get to the other styles at any point in the series, I think, personally. And so the next episode, while maybe not the most exciting, is pretty interesting and unique in its own right. So we're looking forward to that. I don't know. We'll try to test some things out, and maybe we'll try going live again at another point, or pre-record it and then stream it live. We'll see. Again, I don't really have a purpose for going live. It just sounds like fun and something I'd like to try. So we'll see if we can figure that out for next time. In the meantime, thank you for joining us tonight. Hopefully you weren't one of the 1/2 people interested in watching us live. If you're one of those people, we're very sorry. I'll blame my internet. It probably just isn't good enough to keep up with everything. But another time, we'll figure it out. I'm very excited to give it a try. In the meantime, go to Chris's channel on YouTube. That's The Objective Geek. Go watch his latest videos. My name is Sean Shaler. You don't have to watch anything I do except for this right here, which you can find on Apple Podcasts. You already know that. You've already found it probably. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and the place that hosts our podcast, which if you have a podcast, you need to use it because it's 100% free and super user-friendly. It's called podcasts.com, and you never see it advertised anywhere, and I think that's a shame because it's a great service. So go use podcast.com. Start your own podcast. Tell me about it. And my name is Sean Shaler. That's Chris Ford, a.k.a. The Objective Geek. Thank you very much for hanging out with us today. And we will be back next week with the episode called Bitter Work, I think, which I don't really understand the title. It'll make more sense next week. Bitter Work. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.